Yes.
Go ahead.
I just was wondering if there's any value in prayer. You know, does God like it? You know, when we pray or
Yeah.
worship.
Now you tell me, what do you mean by prayer? Jennifer, what do you mean by prayer? Let's begin with the beginning. What do you mean by prayer?
To me, prayer means mostly praise and gratitude, and talking to God.
I agree with you. I would also say the same thing about me. But we are one in a million.
What do you mean?
What do they mean by prayer?
Oh,
I'll tell you, what
ask
do they
something.
mean?
Ask.
What does the dictionary mean by prayer?
Asking God for
What
something.
does the dictionary say by prayer? Earnest entreaty. Earnest begging. Begging with great faith. I have faith in you, God. Please remove my trouble or give me something more. I have faith in you. I have faith in you. And the double result is, if I don't get what I want, my faith has disappeared, my faith in God has disappeared. We have a very eminent politician in Bombay. You know, his wife used to go to a particular temple regularly, and always before she left on a journey, she would go to the temple and go from there. On one such journey, there was an accident and she died. So her husband said, I've lost my faith in God. So when I read that, I said, poor God. He lost the faith of some so important person as that. Therefore, in most cases, a prayer is begging. Begging. Earnest entreaty in the dictionary. Earnest, because they have faith. So God will not answer your prayer if you don't have faith in God. I have faith in God, but God doesn't answer my prayer. Then what happens? No, your faith was not strong enough. There's always an answer. Your faith was not strong enough. I'm talking from daily living. I agree with you. The only real prayer is, as I say, I've suddenly realized so much unhappiness, so many millions and millions below the poverty. But I'm not. I'm reasonably comfortable in life. I have a wonderful family. Every time the thought comes is a prayer in gratitude. My prayer is always an acknowledgement or a gratitude which arises. I don't create that gratitude. Gratitude arises. And the arising of that gratitude is what I call a prayer. Okay?
Yes.
Yes, Jennifer.
Oh, I didn't have any questions for National.
No comment either? About what's been happening? No comment about what happened this morning?
No, I enjoyed it always, but I just sat here because Murti said that you had asked that I sit here.
I'm sorry?
I just sat here because Murti said that you had asked that I sit here.
Yes, I would like to, you are a distinguished author. Through your experiences, you must have a lot to tell us. How this teaching affects your experiences. But you gave a book to my daughter there.
Yes.
And I found there a number of essays on various points, 25, 30 items.
Yes.
In one of them, I didn't go through them, I read it. But one that struck me was forgiveness. You remember that?
Yes.
So I thought, could we talk about forgiveness?
Absolutely.
So what do you say in that book? Honestly, I haven't read it.
Well,
About forgiveness, what have you?
that everything that I talk about in the book, to me, was a way to experience increasing peace
Yes.
in life. That's what I was really looking for, and
Yes.
that's what I was exploring
Sure.
with all the people that I interviewed. And with forgiveness,
And you had interviewed with those people?
yes,
Yes.
and then written stories and written
Yeah.
introductions and commentary on,
I think 25, 30 items.
yes,
Isn't that right?
yes, 27.
20, 25, 30, you're right in the middle. 27.
Right.
So, on this forgiveness, what does the book say?
Well,
What is, when you interviewed the lady, what was all they talk about? On forgiveness.
well, she was, this is a woman who lives in New York City,
Yeah.
who is an acting teacher.
What teacher?
An acting
Yes,
teacher.
yes.
She's a very well-known acting teacher.
I see, yes.
And she had a dreadful childhood. Just
Yes.
really, really dreadful.
I understand.
Dysfunction to the extreme. with
Yes.
Her parents and a sister who was mentally handicapped,
I see,
really.
yes, yes.
And ultimately, as an adult, things were happening to her sister that she felt called to try to help with.
Yes.
And she did, and in that process, she found a spontaneous forgiveness for everything that had happened to her in her life. And in that process, there was just a tremendous peace. And I explored, what many people have said about when you find it in yourself to forgive another person for something that you think they have done to you, that you really set a prisoner free when you do that, and then ultimately you find out that the prisoner you've set free was yourself. Because when you hold on to hatred or condemnation or blaming of someone else, that is, as you would describe it, a total lack of peace within yourself.
Yeah, sure.
So when you find that forgiveness, whether you've put it in your language or your own language of just, I forgive you, I see that this has nothing to do with me other than I am letting go of what I have thought and felt in the past.
But
Tremendous freedom.
when in about someone who forgives someone else, A forgives B. What does A forgive B for?
For what they thought that other person had done to them.
Oh, they definitely know what they've done. They consider it their action. What I mean is, somebody has said something to me or done something to me which has hurt me. And because that has hurt me, the other person is very happy.
Yes,
See what I mean?
Yes.
He's happy that they've hurt me.
yes.
Then I'm supposed to forgive him. Is that right?
Well, supposed to?
What is forgiveness? That's what I would like to. Somebody has hurt me, is very happy about it, but I'm supposed to forgive him. Forgiving his happiness. So I honestly want to know what is forgiveness. Who forgives whom?
Well, it seems from what you've been saying that forgiving someone is more along the lines of realizing that they never did anything to you in the first place.
Therefore, who am I to forgive whom? For what?
Exactly.
On forgiveness, honestly my point is, who am I to forgive whom? For what? I am supposed to forgive the other for what she did to hurt me. Isn't that right? And probably she is happy. So my point is, if the other person is happy because she's done something to me, I say, okay, be happy. I should be happy. So my point really is, the question of forgiveness just simply does not arise. Simply does not arise. In fact, someone who is proud of being of forgiving someone. Isn't that right? I have forgiven. I'm a good man. I'm a proud man. I'm proud that I have the power to forgive someone. My point is, if I have truly accepted, no one is the doer of any action, then how can anyone do me any harm for which I am supposed to forgive the other? Therefore, the question of one forgiving simply doesn't arise. If I have totally accepted, no one is a doer. The question of anyone forgiving anyone simply doesn't arise. So if I have able accepted, no one is a doer, then in my the word forgiveness is just not there.
Well, Ramesh, let me ask you this. One of the things that came up when I was researching that part of the book was a story about a Christian evangelist. I think she was Dutch. Her name was Carrie ten Boom.
Yeah.
And she had been imprisoned during World War II in a concentration camp.
Yes.
And after the war, she later came face to face with one of the guards who had really brutalized her and her sister.
Yes.
And the guard looked at her and said, "Can you forgive me?" and held out his hand.
Yeah.
And she said she was totally shocked and taken aback. And then all of a sudden she held out her hand and met him and said, "I forgive you, brother." And she said it was as if the feeling of the power of God just poured through her in that moment. It was just like an electricity or something.
Yeah. So what had happened? What had happened is, when she found the other offering a hand of peace, the hatred within her evaporated. There was hatred in her. When with the hand of peace, offer of peace, that hatred evaporated. So she felt happy. See what I mean? And that is the whole point. Forgiveness means really helping myself to get rid of my hatred. I forgive the other, and having done that, I hope my hatred has gone. But this time he offered her, therefore that hatred evaporated. But and that has happened, I will share several accounts. When people were taken to the gas chamber, on the way, one or two people, sometimes, they suddenly had this revelation. All this is Maya, nothing is really happening. Nobody is a real doer. With that thing, suddenly, he would start laughing, joking with the guard who is supposed to put him in the gas chamber. Some cases have happened like that. In other words, you are not doing what you think you are doing. You are not hurting me. You are incapable of hurting me. No one is doing anything. This is happening. This, according to my destiny, is supposed to happen. Forgiveness is based on hatred. Question of forgiveness comes in. Because now, what does forgiveness really mean? I, who have hated you, now no longer hate you. Isn't that not the basis of forgiveness? I've hated you for 5 years. But now, because you have offered your hand, I don't hate you anymore. So who has helped whom? Her hatred has disappeared. She is happier to doing the other man the favor of forgiving. So my point is basically, if I accept totally, no one has done anything, then my point is the question of someone forgiving the other simply doesn't arise. Therefore, in my vocabulary, forgiveness simply doesn't figure. No one has the right to forgive anything for anybody. Nobody does anything. See what I mean? so much more basic. You remember any of the other titles in the book?
Oh, sure.
Which you would like
Probably all of them.
which you would like to talk about?
Sure.
Because now we remember that you had to talk with her and this had happened to her. Similarly, do you remember any other?
Yes. Sure.
Which one?
One of them that I really love is
Please.
about compassion.
Yeah.
And the story is something that happened to a woman named Lynn Twist, who is also an author and a great humanitarian in the U.S.
Yeah.
And
A do-gooder.
I'm sorry?
A do-gooder.
A do-gooder, yes. And she had just gotten back from Africa,
Yeah.
where the Hunger Project, which she was one of the founders of, had been working and had some tremendous successes.
Yeah.
She got back to New York and came out of a meeting one night and was going back to where she was staying. And a cab driver picked her up, and immediately she saw that he was very, very angry, almost violently so.
He was.
Yes, the cab
taxi
driver.
was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was very concerned about it, and then at some point, a cab driver, in fact it was an Indian driver, a Sikh driver, cut her cab driver off, and at the next light he was so angry that he got out and went around to the other cab driver and pulled out a knife and tried to kill him.
Yeah.
So when he got back into the cab, she was just shaking, she was just frozen, and she didn't know what to do. But as they went along, she tried to get out and he wouldn't let her out, and she thought, can I possibly put into action what I do in the world? You know, I have these huge successes in Africa and all these places that I travel to, but what about right now?
Yeah.
Can I really walk my talk, as we say? And so she just let all of the mental chatter drop, because she had been thinking, what should I do? Should I get out? Should I call the police? And she said she just sort of dropped into her heart.
And there was a vacuum in her mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she just started listening to him from her heart.
Yeah.
And when they got to the destination, she said, you know, I'm at the end of my day. Would you like to talk? And he was so shocked. And he started telling her about the horrors of his childhood.
Yeah.
It always moves me a lot. And finally she got out of the back seat and she came around and sat in the front seat. And she took his hand, which was still on the knife. And she just listened to him talk about how his, father had kicked him as a child, and he had back pain, and his mother had been a drug addict, and all these things. And she just sat there and she just listened. And when he was finished sobbing and telling the story, she just thanked him and told him her name, and he told her his name, and she paid him, and she got out. And I just thought it was a very, very beautiful example of compassion, which is something that I've always wanted more of myself.
You wanted more. From what I've said, compassion was a biological reaction because of some happening. She was not compassionate.
I understand.
Compassion was at that moment a biological reaction, depending on the circumstances.
Ramesh, I see my whole book differently now.
Don't blame me for it. I just invite you. I'm sure that's going to, because all your points, wherever you tell it, basis that no one does anything. I'm afraid the whole book will collapse. But I'm glad we made money on it already.
The thing is, I just always hope that, to tell you the truth, I've been a part of the self-help industry for so long, and I'm viewing it so differently now, but I do see value in new conditioning replacing old conditioning, as you say, and hopefully, what I experience all the time when I travel around speaking, and people come up and tell me their experiences, and I've read this book and I've read that book, and this touched me and this did that in my life, and this saved my life. I was going to kill myself, but then I read this or heard you speak, and I just always hope that there is something there that is a new way of seeing things for someone that does help their life in some way. But I truly see that these things are not ultimate by any means.
It's happening. Not you're doing, it's happening. Yeah.
I'm so grateful, Ramesh.
But as I told you, I didn't invite you. God sent you here. God sent you here because you are destined to be here at this point. At this time, at this point, there was nowhere you could be except here. And that's God's will. It would be an interesting exercise, wouldn't it, Jennifer? If with this new understanding, you rewrote that book.
Well, Ramesh, you're not going to believe this. Right before I came here, my publisher called me and wants me to redo this book that you're talking about.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
He's asked me to do that, and so as soon as I get home, I have 3 months to rework the material in this book that I gave to Jaya, the same book.
So what you could do is to say the same thing and say, a new perspective. Same title, a new perspective. And apply that to as many of your items as it.
Well, I'll be able to, the title and everything is already established. But, so please forgive me if I don't take that suggestion. But I will talk about that in my introduction. There'll be plenty of places for me to restate things and give a new perspective.
But Jennifer, you see the difference, isn't it?
Yes.
From this perspective that no one is a doer.
Yes.
And the perspective of being compassionate, being forgiving.
Yes.
Being compassionate towards someone, forgiving towards someone.
But Ramesh, don't you think that...
Nothing, hating, no issue of interpersonal relationship arise altogether because there is no relationship literally. It's all floating reaction anyhow, here, there, the other place, whatever.
But my point more is that this is so important, so much confusion. It's so important to distinguish a biological reaction from an egoic reaction. That's my point. Mm-hmm. You don't get angry. Anger arises. I'm not a compassionate man. Compassion arises as well as anger or fear may arise. Big difference between this biological reaction and the egoic reaction. So much misery is caused by believing a biological reaction is his reaction, and thereby getting involved in the biological reaction. You see, anger has arisen. But the ego gets involved in, I was angry, and the whole problem starts. By the ego getting involved in what is basically a biological reaction. That is where the big difference is. The man of understanding witnesses anger arising, or fear arising, or compassion arising in a body-mind organism. With the ego is not concerned.
But Ramesh, it seems to me that when we hear a story, like, this story of the woman and the cab driver, and or when you read
what is biological reaction, Jennifer?
What is my biological reaction?
Anybody.
Oh.
You have,
so everyone can have a different reaction to that.
No. We hear someone, a sad story. By and large, tears will arise in all 3 or 4 people who are listening. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, the biological reaction, every body-mind organism, is compassion.
Okay.
That compassion arising in a body-mind is biological reaction. But if you consider it as your reaction, then say, I am a compassionate person, pride.
So
I was angry, I was afraid. I shouldn't be angry, I'm afraid. Guilt. So the ego getting involved in the biological reaction brings about either guilt or pride, unnecessary, totally. If you see it as a biological reaction, whether your or someone else's body.
So then, even though sometimes we think that all these stories and all these books that I've done are, people say that they're very inspiring.
Wait a minute. They have helped a lot of people, make no mistake.
Right.
It was destiny of a lot of people to be helped by what was your destiny in writing that book. Make no mistake.
But the inspiration that they have from reading them is a biological reaction.
Or whatever is biological or egoic reaction, which is you are not concerned.
Egoic, I see.
That is the point.
Okay.
You need not take any guilt or pride in it.
Right.
But it's a fact. It was your destiny to write a book. It was their destiny to get a lot of advantage from the book. Both are happening.
I like your books better, Ramesh.
The only difference is, mine is not a bestseller, yours is.
For over 20 years.
Yeah.
And she and her husband were pillars in their society.
Say that again?
They were very well known in their society. Every week their pictures were in the paper. And
For something good or something bad.
They were do-gooders,
But
as you would say.
I see.
So then, just one day, after more than 20 years of marriage, he revealed to her that he had actually fallen in love with a man.
Yes.
And her world was just shattered.
Yes.
It was just completely blown apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for several years, actually, there were times when she couldn't get out of bed in the morning because she was so depressed and so embarrassed. She didn't want to be seen by anybody or anything like that.
Yeah.
And yet, over time, what happened was that she came to accept. She stayed very close to him because they had a son together, and over time, she was able to experience such acceptance for him that today they all are able to take a holiday together. Their son, his partner, she has a new man in her life that she's in partnership with, and she can even spend time now with her ex-husband and his male partner because there's just no judgment. And I was very moved by that, and she's come to such a peace with that, and it seems to me that that's very much along the lines of what you have been talking about.
Yeah.
That as we accept everything, maybe there wasn't a conscious understanding that he's not the doer, so how can he be blamed for anything? But she certainly went through that blaming process, and then it just dissolved by the grace of God. And there's such peace there.
For 20 years she was married, she had no idea he was a heterosexual.
Homosexual.
No,
right.
Both.
She had no idea, yes.
I mean, he's a man and a woman.
Right.
He wasn't homosexual.
Right.
They are both.
Right.
That's why I think they call it bisexual.
Bisexual, right.
Bisexual.
Right.
She had no idea.
No idea.
I see.
And I don't think he did, until late.
Oh, really?
Or maybe he had suppressed that, or taken on that guilt or something like that.
Yes, but acceptance. I don't know how many people on earth may be able to accept a situation like that.
I know it was really a great blessing.
Yes.
And it just seems so aligned with everything that you are talking to us about.
Ultimately, that's what it is. Accepting whatever is the only way. Accepting it is the only way. And now, more and more, neuroscience comes out based on science. Truly, he has no control. Recently, there was someone was prosecuted for having pornographic material about children, thing, and as well as, and a day before he has to be sentenced, something happened and they had to have they discovered that in the brain there was a tumor. And it was this tumor which had led to this. That led to further. And something and when the tumor was removed, this disappeared. This tendency disappeared. So who is responsible? See what I mean? So more and more neuroscience comes. No one truly is responsible. But accepting that is another matter. But the fact still remains. Total acceptance is the only answer in many situations. But finally, the bottom line is whether I am able to accept a particular situation or not is my destiny.
Right.
So acceptance, yes. But whether one is able to accept it or not, again, is ultimately my destiny, God's will, cosmic law. But the point about acceptance, that what I mean, what I think is, accept whatever is at any moment. That is the suggestion. The point I make is, accepting whatever is at any moment does not mean accepting something which you feel that is not right. See what I mean? So my point is, if in any situation I don't like something, I can correct something. It does not mean I shouldn't correct something which I can correct. I correct something which I can correct, and then I accept it. See what I mean? Acceptance, banned word like acceptance, has to be understood and interpreted. So there, what I say, acceptance, yes. But after I have done whatever I feel like doing in a given situation. See what I mean? So acceptance does not mean my not judging what is, and I can correct it. And having corrected that situation, then Jennifer, my point is, in a given situation, having corrected what I thought can be corrected, after that, I can have no complaints in the present. Therefore, how do I live my life? I live my life doing whatever I think is necessary in the present moment. And thereafter, knowing that whatever happens has never ever been in my control, having done whatever I thought I necessary to be done in a given situation, after that I relax, witness whatever is going on, including the biological reactions in this body and any other body over which the ego has no control. So, witnessing the biological reactions in the various body, mind, levels, without judging anyone, neither me nor the other. The biological reaction over the ego has no control. And no regrets in the past, no complaints in the present, no expectations in the future, without condemning anybody for anything. So my point is, no complaints in the present. I say that because I've already done whatever I feel I should do in a given situation. Therefore, no complaints in the present. Okay? Yes. What is the other one?
Well, one other one that I thought was really quite similar to the discussion we had the other day about compassion was integrity. And I'm starting to see integrity, which is something that I've always valued as
What do you say your value?
integrity.
Integrity, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now, from what you've said, it seems that is more, it's almost more conditioning as well, just like the compassion that we were talking about. there was the story in the chapter on integrity was about a woman who owned a cosmetics company.
Yeah.
And she had really come up through the ranks.
Yeah.
And was very, very successful until one day a client came in, and it turned out that she was coming to buy some products for the last few months of her life because she was dying of cancer.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And it turns out that she came down with this cancer only after she had started using these products.
Oh.
And Linda, this woman, had tried very hard for years to find out from the chemists exactly what was in these products and wasn't able to find out. But eventually she was able to find out that they did contain some small traces of carcinogenics.
Which could have led to the cancer.
Exactly. And she was so stunned, and she actually revealed this to her client, who was very, very angry.
Oh, the manufacturer found out this.
No, the manufacturer claimed that it couldn't possibly contribute to the
naturally.
cancer. But Linda had been massaging her mother-in-law, and every time she used this product, she got a lump.
I see.
And then she'd stop using it, and the lump went away, and so she herself just had such doubts about everything.
Yeah.
So when this client came in and told her she was dying of cancer, she just froze, and she just said, "Oh my God, I can't sell you these products. Maybe there is a connection." And so after her client left, she ended up taking $30,000 worth of inventory and just throwing it in the garbage, because
that is integrity.
That was integrity. And I was sort of looking at integrity as when what we do on the outside in our actions matches up with with who we are on the inside in terms of our values. But I started thinking after we spoke the other day that even that is conditioning. I mean, our values are our conditioning. They're not absolute at all.
Genes and conditioning.
It's fine to have values, but I still love integrity, and I want to live my life in integrity, but so what? Basically.
No, that's like saying a miser and a generous person. The miser did not choose to be a miser.
Right.
The generous person didn't choose to be a generous person. The psychopath didn't choose to be a psychopath. The saint did not choose to be a saint. Therefore, whatever one is, the whole thing is based entirely on first destiny. And the mechanism of the working of the destiny is genes and conditioning. But the fact still remains. In your friend, Linda, he had two alternatives. She could say, all right, now that I know, I'll stop selling these products. Mm-hmm. But her integrity went to the extent that even the existing products, she didn't want to harm anybody. So she threw them out. It's an extreme case of real integrity. Because that's her genes and conditioning made it possible. But some other person may not have been. If the genes and then she would say, go on. And this is an exceptional case. Mm-hmm. Someone may not be an exceptional case. So what one does is first and foremost one's own conscience. One's own conscience. And the other is what the society says. What the society will, we have to accept it. But basically, integrity or not, as you quite rightly, is a personal thing.
And hopefully, or possibly, not hopefully, but possibly someone reads that story, and it creates something in them that changes their level of integrity.
Yes. What would you call that, Jennifer?
New conditioning replacing old conditioning.
Exactly. New conditioning, amending or even total different in the old condition. It's still conditioning. Mm-hmm. And whether that happens or not is again the destiny. So what is another one which does not tally with what we have been talking about?
I'll have to check the book.
And that's what I thought.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
told Murthy I
Chetan.
didn't need to, but now I'm blank.
Could you bring Jennifer? Oh, you have brought it. No, this is Doctor.
Oh, hi, Chetan. May I borrow it?
Ah, good. Yeah.
Oh, this is something different.
No, wait a minute.
Chetan,
Yes,
may I borrow my book back? Okay,
only for some time.
okay.
This is also.
Yeah. That's what I wanted.
So, Ramesh,
Yeah.
I just wonder if you could give me any guidance. You know, when I go back next week, I have to start on the new version of this book, and I think maybe 80% of it will still be the same, but there
Yeah.
will be an opportunity to bring new material in, and I know that many of these stories, as they are, as we're talking about, are very useful because they do provide that new possibility for new conditioning. But I would also like, very much to.
I mean, this is what I mean. So from this, if you bring out something now, we can talk about it,
Okay.
and which you can add subsequently. Because then this is what
Okay.
the
Thank you, Chetan.
other day we talked about forgiveness
Yes, and compassion,
and compassion.
and one that might be good would be faith.
Faith, yes.
Would
Yeah,
that be a
sure.
good one to talk about?
Yes, please.
Or here's a beautiful one, grace.
Yes.
Grace. That's a beautiful one.
By grace you mean God's grace.
Yes.
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 Go ahead.
Would you
please.
like to talk about that one?
Yes, if you
Okay.
can tell me your story.
Okay. I interviewed a woman when I heard that when she and her husband, they had a small child,
Yes.
and he was about 3 years old.
Yes.
And one day, they had some friends visiting them, and they also had a child, and the children were just playing.
Yes.
And the husband was about to leave for work.
Yeah.
And he was driving a big truck for his work, and he was sitting in the driveway and doing some paperwork before leaving. And the children were on the porch in full view, and he started to back out of the driveway, and all of a sudden the mother heard a cry.
Yes.
And before anybody knew, their little boy had somehow left the porch, and he was in the driveway.
Yes.
And the husband didn't see.
Yes.
And he ran over their
Yeah.
son.
Yes. Curiously, I remember reading about it. Sometimes I don't know whether it's
Really?
the same or it should be another. Exactly the same. So,
So I wanted to know,
it can be a horrible experience.
their son, she was able to just get to him in time to hold him
Yeah.
as he died.
I see, yeah.
And I wanted to interview her because I wanted to know how they had survived that, and
Yeah.
how they had stayed together.
Yes.
And because they had been married for 25 years
And
at
it's
this
their
point.
own son.
It was their own son.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I remember reading.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 10 years ago. But I remember reading this
Huh.
particular incident.
Huh.
Maybe some other, but
Maybe so.
it could happen, yes.
So I really wanted to know,
Yes.
what kept them together.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful because Nancy is this woman's name.
Yes.
And she talked about how she had really been given the grace to sort of see things on a more celestial level.
Yeah.
That level of life became available to her.
Yeah.
So she was able to see the light that
Yeah.
was surrounding her son and them, she really could actually see his spirit
Yeah.
leaving the body, she said.
Oh, I see.
And then after that moment, she and her husband went into their son's room, and over the next few weeks they would often go in there, and she said they were visited by angelic beings and also his presence, letting them know that he was all right. And
Yeah.
the whole thing, with all its pain, was touched with an exquisite sense of the divine.
Yeah.
And of the order, the
Yeah.
divine order in all of it. And she told me that there never was any moment where she had to think about forgiving her husband or not forgiving him.
Yeah.
It might have occurred to her in one instant
Yeah.
that he had done this, so to speak, but she just couldn't even hold on to that thought, that they were in it together was more the feeling. And it wasn't even difficult. To me, I looked at that situation and I thought, how could they have survived that and stayed together and be married 25 years? But after the visit stopped from these presences, they learned that she was pregnant again, and then they had 2 more children after that.
Yes. Yeah.
And they talk about it, very openly and very lovingly, and she makes herself available. In the back of the book, we have information for people to contact everyone whose story is in the book if they want to. And they're always available to talk with other people who have lost children,
Yes,
and
yes.
they're able to serve in that way. And I looked at that, and for each of these stories, Ramesh, I wrote my own introduction about my own experiences. And as I recall, in that chapter, I wrote a lot about my own experiences in India when I was here 35 years ago.
Yeah.
When I think about the word grace, which is the word that Nancy used, this was grace that we had. I thought about the first time that I saw Mount Everest. I was in Nepal, and also the first time I saw the Ganga when I was in Benares, and arrived there at 5 o'clock in the morning and just went straight to the river and waited for the sun to rise. And it seems that there are experiences that happen in life that I would just call grace. There is an exquisite beauty to them
Quite right.
that I just can't call anything other than
To
grace.
which not everyone is entitled. Grace, which few people have the good fortune to enjoy, which everybody is not entitled to.
So when you talk, Ramesh, about the pain and pleasure that, everyone has a certain amount of pain and pleasure,
Yes.
are those, I would assume, but I would like to hear what you say, that they're not equal amounts of pain and pleasure, and that for some people a lifetime is mostly pain, and for some people a lifetime is mostly pleasure,
Indeed,
and that it's very inequitable.
that is the point.
Okay.
Duality, but certainly not equitably distributed. And that is why we have millionaires and absolute
Paupers.
paupers. We have psychopaths and saints, 2 extremes. And in those extremes, whole line of anyway in the mixture. So, but in what you have talked about, and in your case too, what has happened was grace, I agree. But that grace is something not everyone can expect. That one of God's gifts, meant for only special people. Why? According to God's will, cosmic law. See, if she can have it, why can't I have it? No answer. Exhibition of God's will, cosmic law, and your destiny. So this is an exceptional case. Now my point is, what should have been their attitude if this grace had not happened in this particular case where the child was in this accident?
That it's God's will.
Both had that grace. Therefore it was easy for them.
Right.
That was easy for them. But what about an ordinary who had the grace, as you say, is not there? Then what would have happened in a case where there is no grace?
There would have been a lot of pain.
What is the bottom line?
Pain.
Bottom line is, whatever is supposed to happen is their destiny. About that no one can do it. But understanding the part of it, obviously it is an accident. There is no question about it. It's an accident. An accident is an accident which is supposed to happen in their life and their destiny. So it first and foremost, it had to happen. My point is, what happened had to happen. Therefore, he did something is no longer valid. He did something is no longer valid. It had to happen. If that is totally accepted, everything happens according to God's will, cosmic law, and the destiny of the person concerned. That is the bottom line. If that is accepted, then tell me, how could possibly the wife blame the husband? She as the mother suffers exactly what the father is going to suffer, even more. Because he happened to be at the wheel when this happened. Therefore my point is, there is no question of the woman forgiving the man. There is no question. He said, for a moment it's crossed her mind. So that crossing is wrong. So if this is understood, the question of the woman forgiving the man simply couldn't arise. The husband will have the same hurt plus the additional feeling of guilt. So from the husband's point of view, if he is able to accept totally everything that happened had to happen precisely the way it happened, then in his case there should be no guilt, and he should be, and something happened, it happened. From the woman's point of view, her husband happened to be at the wheel. If a guest over there happened to be at the wheel, the result would have been the same. So my point is, basically, no one has done anything. It had happened exactly as it had to happen. That is the basis of the understanding. So if that is the understanding, then there is no question of anyone forgiving anybody. So here a question of forgiving comes in. And two, accepting whatever has happened. From the point of view of the woman, she now says, he did it, and that's why the trouble. And what I am saying is, it's quite clear, since obviously it's an accident, the father would feel as much pain with the son's death as the mother would. So therefore, instead of forgiving him, the wife in that case should sympathize with the husband.
She did.
Instead of wanting to forgive him, she should sympathize with him and share the same pain. It's there. So instead of, no question of forgiving him, he has suffering plus guilt. So according to me, the woman, then if this is understood, the woman, instead of thinking of forgiving him, she would have tried to console him. You didn't do it. It had to happen. It's his destiny, your destiny, and my destiny. In that case, yes.
It seems like the greatest grace is this Sukha Shanti that you are talking about.
Now, that is not grace.
It's not?
No. Because grace is something special, which is your destiny. This happiness through peace of mind, Sukha Shanti, is everybody's birthright. That's everybody's birthright. But how many are able to reach that birthright is destiny.
Feels like grace to me.
Yes, but the distance is, for grace, very few people. Very few people. Whereas this understanding happening, not quite as few as those. It is the destiny of quite a lot of more people to have this understanding. But grace, I would imagine, is extraordinarily rare.
Well, one of the points that I tried to make around grace was for people to be aware. I think that some people have lots of grace in their lives, and they don't pay attention. They don't notice the gifts that they have. You know, even if it's what you talk about as having a reasonably comfortable life.
No. There this is not understood.
Okay.
What happens? A person has this lot of grace happens, and he does not have the least understanding about this. He will treat it as his accomplishment. I'm an achiever. This will be part of his achievement. I'm a special man. So this sort of thing happens to me, not to you. So instead of the total humility for something over which he had no real right, without the understanding, it turns into pride. I am an achiever, it's happened to me. I'm a special person. So understanding makes such a difference between pride and humility.
It's really interesting, Ramesh, how my success has it opens lots of doors. It opens lots of doors, including here in India for me. And it's people really they love celebrity, and they love to put people up on a pedestal.
Yes.
And always, from the first time, my first book was so successful, I just have felt lucky. I just have felt completely lucky, and I don't try to tell people, oh no, it's nothing or anything like that. But it's just a constant noticing that people love to praise and act as if I've done something great when I really know the truth.
So what is the truth, Jennifer? Tell me.
The truth is that
What is the truth?
I didn't really write the books.
In other words,
And I can't take credit.
that is the understanding. And even there, Jennifer, someone can be a bloody hypocrite. He knows he's an achiever. Oh, but I'm even there, it can be genuine as you in your case, or even there it can be pride. The story goes about I think it was Solomon or someone, he says, who took pride in his humility and lowliness. He went to him, torn clothes with, and he said, "You are a proud man." So Solomon told him, "I can see your pride shining through every hole in your dress." Seriously, I can see your pride shining through every hole in your dress. So, the moment I begin to take pride in my humility, where is the humility? And which happens, again, your destiny. You may have a genuine humility, or you may not have a genuine humility. Ultimately, the bottom line is destiny. But we can at least see the matter clearly. And it again is destiny to be able for Jennifer to see the whole point and see the futility of pride. And therefore, it's genuine humility. And you must have, when you're writing, you must have felt it. That the writing is happening. The writing is happening. And the story that came to you, how did you happen to have all these books? 50, 60? 50, 60?
27 in this book.
So,
But in other books, 101 in the other books.
similar ones.
Similar.
My point is, how did you happen to know about the incident which gone in the book?
I was always listening for wonderful stories, inspiring stories, and sometimes I would research it, and sometimes I would call people or ask them if like even here in India the last few days I've been meeting some really incredible people whose stories I want to include when I go back and redo this book.
I see.
I want to add their stories. So I just meet people. People are just put in my path. And I just immediately know, oh, this would be wonderful to share with people.
So, but you have just said, Jennifer, even that happened.
That's right. That's
Even
right.
that such and such a story had to come to you, so that you will include it in your book, so that a book will come out, which you are doing praying to Jennifer. Whole thing is one thing leading to another.
But I will say that in the past, when I really did think that I was writing the books, that there was often a struggle attached to it, because I really thought I had to sort of go out and make it happen.
Yeah.
And this is a really huge concept in the self-help industry in the U.S. and other countries too.
And the positive
make
attitude.
it happen, and
Positive attitude.
yes, and it was exhausting. It was really, really exhausting, and I feel as though now it's just a whole different experience because everything just comes. Everything that I need just comes. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. But now tell me one point. Do you feel that it's about time you wrote another book?
I was not feeling that, but right before I came to India, my publisher just called out of the clear blue sky. And he said, the Chicken Soup for the Soul people love this book and they want to make it part of a new series that they have, and they think that this will fit really well if we just rework it and do a different format and put some new stories in, and do you like the idea? And I just said yes.
So it's come to you.
I wasn't wanting to write another book.
That is my point. You're not wanting to write the book.
And so it's just happening.
Therefore, must have been, I think, 30, 35 books in the last few years. Can you imagine?
No.
And every book that I have written is written in longhand.
Oh my.
I can't type. So can you imagine? Is it ever possible for anyone to write in longhand? And therefore, every time it's finished, I honestly felt, well, that's out of my way. Before something else comes. I'll tell you, for instance, have you read the book Sin and Guilt?
Yes. Or parts of it.
Yeah. So that book might help you in your thing. Now, I'll tell you, how did that happen? Sin and Guilt. There's a story behind it. For everything there is a reason for it. Sin and Guilt, what happened was, it was this other Jennifer, she was here, and her parents went on a world tour. So she told them, take a week off and spend it with me and Ali. So they did that. And they were here for a week. And the husband and sitting there, listening to what I have to say. Okay. The first time, strong Christian conditioning. Strong Christian conditioning. They sat there, forced to, because Jennifer made them company. They're forced to listen to this bloody rubbish. Sitting there, Then what happened was, the mother gradually started melting. So day later, or 2 days later, Jennifer said, Ramesh, my mother would like to come and see you. I said, all right. Particular time, 4:30 or whatever. But she said, but she would like to see you alone without my father. So I had a talk with the mother, and it really, the whole thing, really, so by the time they left, the mother was total transformation in the mother. But the father remained as rigid as ever. And Jennifer, believe me, a lot of people from there would go to this club, swimming club. So several foreigners would go there, and this couple was there. And I'm told, I think Ali told me, usually there is a batch of 7 or 8 people ganging up to talk with his father, trying to convince him. They out, and they were rigid as ever. Ultimately he remained rigid. He went back. And what he did was, he sent a book to Jennifer, suggesting that she give it to me to read. The book was The Will of God. The book was Will of God. Straight across it on the cover. 650,000 copies sold. Will of God by so and so. There was someone high in the church. 650,000 copies sold. And do you know what the book said? The book said, Will of God, thy will be done. It seems simple, but it is not simple. You have to understand it. It is to be interpreted. And the whole, not a big book, small book. So what was his interpretation? His interpretation was, will of God has to be understood. It's not all just will of God. Will of God, he said, you have to distinguish. First, there is the intentional will of God. Intentional will of God. But apparently, God has no power for his intentional will to happen. So if it's intentional will, then circumstantial will of God, which can change the intentional will of God. Based on this, he said, it was not, I'm not joking, you can read the book if you like. It was not the intention of God to create a character like Adolf Hitler. That was a circumstantial will of God. Circumstances had said that the circumstances created a character called Adolf Hitler. The ultimate will of God prevailed when the Nazis were defeated and Hitler committed suicide. But it doesn't say, but I'm sure he knew. The actual fact was that the atom bomb, on very good authority, the atom bomb was first discovered by the Germans, by the German scientists. But they didn't have at that time the power or the understand, the knowledge to deliver the atom bomb. There they were stuck. The Americans discovered the atom bomb later, but with that they discovered to drop the bomb. So it was so close. And even the war itself, Hitler had under his boot the entire Europe. He had put down the entire Europe. And I remember reading the report. Hitler stood on the shores of France, looking at the cliffs of Dover. He was there for half an hour, just standing there, witnessing, staring at the cliffs of Dover. All his generals with him. The big problem for him was because of the time. The summer was ending, the autumn was ending, the winter was about to start. Hitler's big problem then was, should he attack England or should he attack Russia? All his generals, as I read, all his generals unanimously suggested that they attack England and they will bring England down to its knees in a week's time, 6 days, maybe less. They're so sure. And that was true. That was true. In fact, the report was that the government had distributed quite a lot of guns so that the head of the family could kill his family if the Nazis did invade. That was the report. The British knew if they had invaded, England would have been finished not 6 days, probably 3 days. And yet, what did Hitler decide? They may say, but in case it takes 2 or 3 weeks, then the opportunity to attack Russia would have been over, because winter would have set in by then. And Hitler decided not to attack in spite of the took advice from all his generals. He attacked Russia. And we know what happened in Russia. So the decision is so close. And yet he says, the ultimate will of God, when this happened. Another case, he says, every woman's birthright is to have a child. Every woman's birthright is to have a child. Certain women are ugly, nobody marries them, they don't have children. This is not the intentional will of God, but the circumstantial will of God. The ultimate will of God prevails when she does find someone, another ugly man. And they get married and they do have a child. Ultimate will of God. I'm not joking. Then, see what I mean? So when I read that, I said I must give an answer. And the Sin and Guilt came out. The book Sin and Guilt was an answer to this book.
That's great.
So every book that has come out, always some reason behind it.
Do you know whether Jennifer's father ever read Sin and Guilt?
I don't know. He didn't. He didn't. He refused to read it. There you are. Whereas, if he genuinely believed in it, he would have read anything, wouldn't he? Mm-hmm. If he genuinely believed something, why should he fear reading anything? For instance, knowing that this, I had no fear of reading this book, which he said. Isn't that funny, Gabriel?
Very funny.
So,